We have people who will be contacted. You know, why Vito's having his pasta, he is also monitoring the buildings. I mean, Vito's life has changed, you know. Thanksgiving, what were you doing Thanksgiving? Well, you know, it's trying to carve a turkey and check all the points in the building. I mean, this is exactly where we are today. And we have dealt with a lot of issues in terms of mechanically, and we have some issues that we're dealing with our general contractor, our design engineer, and these are things where Jerry, I would prefer Jerry address them. You know, whether or not we can recoup costs, and you know, Jerry is working very hard to get that done. So the recommendations we have in terms of the system enhancements to correct the humidity issues, okay, which are really system enhancements, you know, our recommendation is that these enhancements be done. We realize budget-wise, tough year, but I think the costs are minimal, and the gains you will gain will be very high in terms of humidity control and making that building a more comfortable place for our students and our staff to live in. So, you know, you have the report. Our recommendation is that what has been recommended in terms of that the Board of Selectmen approve those, and that we have an opportunity to do them. So, you know, I think that if you know, I really, unless we're open for questions. Jim is here, we're here. If there's anybody who has any questions you would like us to address, we're here to do that. But I don't really have a hell of a lot more than that to say.
Okay, thank you. I thought before we go into Q&A, I'm going to ask Jerry, because you mentioned his findings or what he's worked on for quite a while, so I asked him to please address those. You need a mic, I know.
So I'll be very brief, but once we accumulated all the reports, all of the expert reports, Van Zelm's report, and a couple of the other groups that took a look at our systems and made some evaluations of what needed to be done, some of the failures that we had, we decided to put our general contractor, which was a company called ESG, give them the opportunity to comment on what we've accumulated and what the town has already spent in terms of correcting some of the issues that have occurred at Beecher. So they have the full package of reports and experts, and I received a call from their lawyer 4 days ago, and said they would like the opportunity to come up here, meet with us, a group of people who've been involved in this, and discuss whether they think they can help us in any way to try and correct some of the problems. I told them that we have an issue with a timing, that we must make some decisions. We must begin some work very soon before the hot season begins, because we can't get into a situation of having a humidity problem there again, and we're under this time pressure, and we have a contractor ready to go later on in April. And they said, we're going to respond very quickly, and as a matter of fact, somebody is coming tomorrow, a person who is a decision maker at the ESG, which is a pretty big company, will be here to meet with Andy, Jim, I think Tony is going to be there, and a few other people who've been intimately involved in the process. And they said that they're looking to see if there's any way they can assist us. I'm cautiously optimistic that we may be able to get some assistance, but there is absolutely no guarantee. They may say this is not our problem, everything we did was appropriate, but we thought we needed to, number one, explore the possibility to see whether there was any recourse for the town, and number two, we wanted to give them enough notice in advance of us incurring more expense for them to have an opportunity to review what we're going to do and see what their thoughts are on the issue. John Rice, as Andy mentioned, was our design engineer. He's from a company called AKF, also another very big national company. He was also given the reports, and he was told that we're meeting tomorrow. He wants to be here. He may not be able to. He may call in. But ESG has indicated that they thought it would be very helpful for him to be involved in the process. And they're going to get him involved regardless of what we do, because he was hired by them to be the design consultant, and he also represented the town in terms of being a representative of the town during the whole process. So I don't know a lot more, but we're at least trying to not leave any stone unturned, and we will give the best efforts to see whether there is any responsibility from third parties. We might know a little bit more tomorrow. Any members of the Board of Selectmen that want to come are certainly welcome to come,
Right,
or the Board of Finance.
okay. We're waiting for the Board of Finance to have a quorum, and I think it just happened. Good. We now have a quorum of the Board of Finance. I guess I'll open it up next to questions and answers from members of the board, if you have anything for the committee or for Jerry at this point.
The recommended enhancements, I haven't seen those in detail, but I'm just reading the findings and conclusions, so I'm just a little confused why we would have to engage in enhancements when I think I understood you to say that we're not utilizing the systems to its full capacity. And I probably just don't understand all the details, but that seems to be a little incongruent to me.
Well, no, I think that I'm gonna refer this to Jim, but because he has already went through the situation in Amy Reed. When the system was designed, those units, it was felt by the general contractor and the engineer that they would be able to handle the humidity problem, the ventilators in the space. And I think that they did their engineering based on that. And there was a discussion, I don't know if Tony remembers or Sheila remembers, there was a discussion whether to use the unit ventilators or put in rooftop units, reduct that space, and put in, and the cost at that point in time was estimated additional $500,000 or $600,000. And at that point in time, the decision was made to go with, their decision was made to go with the unit ventilators and the way they designed the system. So now, why it's an enhancement, I'm gonna turn that over to Jim, because Jim has already lived with this. I'll let Jim pick it up from that.
Right now, the current system that was installed is controlling the temperature only. And I think I mentioned at the last meeting, we came to, dehumidification occurs when, you're bringing in your outside air in across a saturated cold cooling coil, with hopefully someplace in the 44 to 45 degree temperature range. The problem is what happens when you're only controlling the temperature is it satisfies the thermostat very quickly and the cooling valve closes. Because we have the ventilation requirements by many different codes to provide fresh air for the building occupants, you're still dragging in all that humid air and you're not dehumidifying it. So the enhancements that we're looking to put in will removing the thermostat and replacing it with a three-way sensor that will measure the temperature, humidity, and CO2. And so it essentially would be demand control ventilation. So when your CO2 levels are low, the room isn't occupied, you don't need all of the air, then obviously the dampers will close and you won't have a need to be conditioning it, whether it be heating and or cooling. When CO2 levels rise, students are back in the room, they're creating activity, CO2 takes over, and the outside air dampers open up. The good thing is in the, I know, Joe, you said you didn't have the whole sequence of operations, but it's a very complex sequence of operations that the upgraded Honeywell system will do now, to where it'll slow down the fan speed and it'll open the air dampers, just enough for the system to recover for CO2, but it'll keep the cooling coil open much longer than only controlling the temperature, and it'll be dehumidifying the air that goes in there. The other issue that was in the sequence that created problems, the exhaust fans really never shut off, so even prior, if you overrode outside air dampers or such, you still had exhaust fans pulling air, and as no damper is 100% foolproof to close all the way. There's cracks in windows, there's, leakage at doors, there's a door in every classroom, and so there was a lot of, infiltration. Now that everything will be properly balanced and operating together as a cohesive system, the majority of the outside air, both, during hot and cold days, will be minimized.
Not having a lot of the technical knowledge that you and others have, I'm trying to understand why would humidity not be considered part of whatever was engineered to begin with? In other words, why, it appears as if we're specifically trying to address a humidity problem that, to a layperson like myself, would think would be addressed with with a air handling system as part of its core service.
I can't answer that 100%. I wasn't present back during the
Understand.
time.
But
All
is
of
it-
the
is it- is
all
it
the
in-
documents I was given to review, merely the request was to, properly heat and cool the building. So the system properly heats and cools the building. It'll maintain a temperature. But unit ventilators notoriously are not effective at dehumidifying unless you really beef them up with additional controls.
My visualization of the way this system is malfunctioning is that the chief problem is that you have an outside air damper, which remains open all the time. And then you have another bunch of dampers throughout the system, which are supposed to open and close. And basically, you want to reduce the amount of outside air coming in to reduce the amount of air that you have to condition. So that, to me, if that thing remains open, isn't that a flaw in the system, in the design of the system originally? I mean, that's supposed to be a dynamic thing. And-
It's a flaw in the operational sequence of the system.
I don't want to really interrupt it, I don't want to be a downer on this thing, but we're meeting, a lot of the issues you're raising are issues maybe for tomorrow and for.
No, it's a fair question though, Jerry. The
I know
question
it's a
is
fair
it a design issue? I believe that, they felt, again, that those unit ventilators were gonna be able to dehumidify, okay? And they were incorrect, all right? They didn't do the job. They didn't do the job that was necessary to do it based on the amount of humidity buildup we were getting. That's the bad news. The good news is that we have the basic equipment and everything we need by adding on some controls that are able to upgrade them to make them work. So could we say, could the engineer have done a better job in designing that? Fine. But basically they had the same building on a regional basis where their original design was similar to the design we had. And then Van Zelm was the one that came in and solve that problem using the basic equipment. So, and I think that's part of what we're gonna be talking about tomorrow, okay? That's on the list for discussion tomorrow.
But it sounds like if they thought those unit ventilators would address humidity, then that was part of, I'm going back to Mika's question. It seems like we were attempting to address the humidity problem through this project.
Certainly was
But
involved
just
in the
didn't
scope
happen.
of work,
Okay.
okay? There's no question about the fact that it was involved in the scope of work, understanding the fact that this building never had any air conditioning in it, so it was being air conditioned, okay? This is all new to the building. I mean, prior to the areas that were air conditioned, we're never air conditioned prior to that. Okay, so these unit ventilators at that point in time only did heat, they did not do cooling. And so again, I think that that's where we are, okay? And we have a fix, and fortunately, the fix, okay, is cost effective. It is a cost effective fix. So, and we're recommending it be done because we think it's very important for the environment in the building, that be done, so. Now, part of what Jerry has set up for tomorrow is exactly the things we're gonna be, that you have brought up today, we will be discussing with them tomorrow, okay? And in terms of, responsibility in these areas, okay? In terms of, and that's not the only area we're gonna be talking about, but that's one of the areas we're gonna be talking about. So that's, we're gonna be asking the same questions, okay? That you're asking us, we're gonna be dealing with ESG on the same issues.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy, Jim, and whoever else worked on this project, but from my point of view, the humidity was probably the straw that broke the camel's back for me as someone who's trying to represent the taxpayers. We sold this project, the largest bonded project. I'm talking the whole, I know, Andy, you'll say, well, there were safety issues, there was numerous things that we did as part of this $13 million project. But we sold the taxpayers on a project that was going to make Beecher Road School ready for the next 20 years. During the construction, a pipe broke. We had a major problem in the building during the construction. After the construction, another pipe broke, and that was the big one last winter. The problem, in my estimation, with that was that, I think you touched on this, Andy. I remember hearing from, ESG? Right. That they were going to put a video together, and so anybody coming in, so Vito comes in after the fact, and he's going to have a video showing them how to do different things and whatever. That never happened. I agree with you 100%. They never trained the people there to understand the system. Because again, when you're spending $13 million, you like to think with the problem we had when the pipe burst last Christmas time, that these things are all opening and closing with this wonderful computer system we have. It didn't happen. So that's problem number two. Of course, we had the problem with no hot water in the South School that, Andy, I know you took care of. It was very simple. The next problem is the whatever it's called in the pool. We had this major humidity problem in the pool. We're going to take care of this. We're going to put this, what is it called, Flectron or Dectron, and this is going to take care of it. And all of a sudden it's shut off because it's broken. The bearings are off, and another problem. Then this. I mean, when you spend this kind of money and you're telling the taxpayers that this is going to take care of the school, I expect with an HVA system, I understand what you're saying, Jim, that you're not going to have a humidity issue. How can you possibly, if you redo the whole HVA system, and obviously air quality, air humidity is all part of that, how can we have the school having to spend how much to clean up that mold? A lot. $160,000. Forget the work that wasn't done, forget the equipment enhancements that weren't done. Who's going to pay this $160,000 mistake? $160,000 because we didn't remove the humidity in the building. My God, what did we do? Why did we put this system in if it couldn't remove? As far as I'm concerned, the contractor is 100% liable for all this. And I will not vote for this because I don't think I should ask the taxpayers to spend any more money for a screw-up, and I believe it's a screw-up. I would have never have expected, if a ceiling cracked or something crazy happened in that building, okay, we can't pin that on this. But when you're having a humidity issue, which cost you $160,000 to fix, something's wrong with the system they installed. And nobody's going to convince me that, well, they've got the thing in place, but it's not quite ready, so we're cooling the air, but we're not dehumidifying. All part of the problem. That should have been addressed, it should have been handled, and we shouldn't be having this conversation. So I will not vote for any money, personally, to fix this because I don't think we're responsible for it.
Yes, it was commissioned.
It was
Was
commissioned the
commissioned.
first time, I
Was
understand,
commissioned.
several years ago,
It
yeah.
was commissioned by AKF, John.
Right.
White.
By John, right.
And there's a very substantial report based on the commission.
Was commission.
So, Matt, the only thing I just want to point out, that the only reason to vote for this now is, so from my, I understand that, and Bob Gilbert can explain it better, is that there is, the time pressure is coming up on us, and if we don't do something, we're gonna have the same problem again, and another $160,000 to clean humidity. Am I right on that?
Potentially.
Yeah, but the response to that is, why have we waited so long to hook in ESG and AKF?
Well, because we wanted to make sure we had all the reports. So far, everybody has an opinion that there's liability, there's not liability. We really don't know. We need Van Zelm, we need an expert to tell us there is a flaw with the system. And so far, we don't.
Van Zelm hasn't
Well,
issued
we
a
have
report.
some, yes, that's correct.
I'm sorry, say that again, John?
I said Van Zelm has not issued a report or an opinion, I guess not.
I think what they've said is that they need to do the corrective work before they're gonna be able to tell whether there was something deficient in what was already done, but I'm not sure of that.
To Matt's point, and I'm not too far from where you are, Matt, with the exception of, from a sentiment standpoint, but from a practical standpoint, I would like, it's important to understand if not doing something, not spending money makes it worse. And then Jerry, from your perspective, that the follow-up question to that is, if we go ahead and spend more money, what is if we're able to demonstrate that it is an issue and it was a contractor issue, are we able to recoup that? You know, that type of thing there.
That's the reason why with Van Zelm is supposedly gonna do the work. We're gonna find out tomorrow whether ESG has a suggestion that would save us the money or save us the work. One
Or
the
pay for
other,
the
or both.
cost.
Pay for it or do the work or whatever. It's up to Jim, who's gonna be there and give us some advice as to whether that's appropriate. But you can't, these things don't happen overnight. I mean, litigation, contract litigation could take 5 years. And no matter how quickly they were put on notice, we would not have a resolution now if they said we're not doing anything. So the question is, do you want to, there is no way we could have gotten third-party help on this by now if the third party doesn't want to do anything. And we'll know a little bit more tomorrow. But you have the problem of either fixing it now to avoid a future problem or taking our chances that it doesn't happen again. That's up to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen.
So AKF is gonna be there tomorrow, John
He's
Reitz?
gonna call in, he wanted to be there, he said he didn't know whether he would be there. We've already had several meetings with him.
Well, what's
He
his
was here.
position?
He looked at the Van Zelm report and he basically said some of the things that they suggested are very appropriate and good improvements, enhancements.
Well, that's
They
great.
also felt that
But
a lot
where
of the
were
stuff.
they, where were they when this whole thing was they were our rep. That's why we hire them. So where were
So
they
I
then?
would
So
rather not do a lot of this open session, this is litigation, and to talk about.
Well, this is all
strategy-
common sense
well,
anyway.
No, but to talk about litigation strategy and who's responsible is not really the appropriate thing for us to do. If we wanna do that, we should really have an executive session to go over litigation. That's the only reason I suggested to David, maybe we should hold off on that. We don't wanna say what we know or we don't know yet because we're still in the negotiation stage.
I
That's
don't
my only
think we
point.
know too much. Other than I agree with Matt that the people we hired to get this done didn't serve us very well.
Absolutely.
We gotta straighten that out.
I mean, it's not 10 years down the road, it's 2 or 3 years. God, I mean, we're still, we're just starting to get.
When did this project finish?
Well, I
Two-
mean, it's
the
2 or
first
3
time.
years,
About
maybe
2, 3 years,
We're
okay.
not, we're not totally innocent. I mean, you know, there were things transpiring, okay, that, you know, maybe we should have should have had better control over, okay? And I think that in some issues that, yeah, we did accept the system and maybe we accepted it, might have accepted it too soon. I mean, you know, the board of, the building committee, once this project was turned over, we were out of it. Basically, you know, in terms of what was transpiring, we knew nothing about until basically December of last year, until we had that thing. There were issues, and there was memos of issues that did arise, okay, that just were not dealt with. So, now, we could take the position that you don't want to fund it, but then you also have to take the responsibility, if we don't fund it, if we create another major problem with humidity and mold, okay? And if we were talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know? And we're talking about, yeah, we did spend $13 million on this project, but we tend to forget that, you know, $3 million of that was paid by the state of Connecticut. So our taxpayer paid $10 million for this, not $13 million for it. And it's very important that this be done. Now, if we choose not to do it, fine. Our recommendation is we want it done so it doesn't happen again. Now, obviously, I really believe that we're in a position to leverage our position with the engineering and ESG, and I think that we'll have an opportunity to do that tomorrow. They're not gonna get off scot-free on this.
I'm sorry.
So just one more quick, so if it does turn out that ESG or AKF is going to step up to the plate and assist, you don't have to do this so quickly. This is only in the eventuality that they say, no, we're not responsible, then we have to go ahead and make a decision whether you want to make the improvements or not.
Well, if we don't act on this.
No, I'm saying,
Okay.
only if they say, we're gonna do it,
If they're gonna.
then you won't have to spend the money. That's a
So
long
you-
shot,
you're
that is like a
suggest-
real long shot.
You're suggesting we approve the money and then
Subject to.
we subject to.
Yes.
Well, that
yes.
makes sense.
Right.
So, I just wanna make sure I have we're talking about $139,110 total cost for your recommendations. right? Plus the
Yep.
160 that.
Capital, yeah, for 18-19 would be 84 and 54 in
Is
19-20.
that for both that's for both phases?
Both phases, right, that's correct.
In the executive today, I'm sorry, John.
No, I was just saying I understand the practicality of the situation, but, so I guess if we don't do this, the risk is that with the hot and humid weather, not only do the students suffer, but we have a situation where mold might
Could happen again.
So,
come into.
anybody sitting at this table, Jim, Andy, Dwight Roll, anybody, can anybody look at me and say, this is normal that we had this humidity problem? What's the big deal? I mean, or do you agree with me that when you redo an HVA system, this shouldn't even be in it, we shouldn't even be talking about this? Anybody disagree with that?
I completely agree with you.
You would expect that,
You know, in
okay.
terms of,
you
if you
know.
look at the report, it's pretty evident that there were issues. There are concerns, there are issues, and there's culpability that can be laid in different areas, but.
No, I wouldn't
I
say tell
believe-
you that, Matthew.
But,
And I wouldn't say, I've been in this business for too long, I wouldn't tell you that, okay? And, you know, and again, we have to address that with ESG, we have to address it with the engineer. No, I think that, and Van Zelm, same system, same equipment, okay? Adding some sensors and some software, okay, has a better solution to the problem and what we feel is a cure for the problem. Right, now, that's a fact, okay? Now, I have a very lengthy email from somebody that says, well, you know, removing humidity is expensive, and that could have affected the energy conservation portion of our program, and therefore, our grant money. And we say, hey, you know,
That's a good one.
all right, that is a good one, but, and I saved the menu. I saved the memo, so I have that memo, and I'll bring it with me tomorrow. I mean, so, again, you know, could that have been a better engineering job on that end? Yes, we think there can be. It could have been done that way. What Jim has proposed and what Van Zelm has proposed could have been the original solution to humidity control in those classrooms. Yes. Could have been, but it wasn't.
Well, yeah,
And here we are.
It's something, Jim, we redid, Joe, you were active at Amity when we redid that whole building.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Right, and I don't recall after it's all done, that we had any problems like this. I mean,
Well, I don't either, but.
And Jim's all over it. I know
was
we're
just
always
gonna
changing
ask
stuff.
Jim, do we have
Before the
experience within that
Before the
project of
project.
Van Zelm
Yes,
coming in?
Yeah,
And so,
right.
is this sort
But I
of
mean,
a
after it, we have a
tested
problem.
solution?
yes.
From Van Zelm, we have experience?
Both of our middle schools, we had to upgrade.
Yeah, I remember, because we use unit ventilators there.
And that's
in
what's,
middle
that's
school.
what's in the Beecher School, the unit ventilators.
And so Van Zelm came in with a similar solution and it
Yes.
worked. And it worked.
Yep.
And that's why we're recommending.
I think before we vote to do anything, even to accept your report, I'd like to, for the public and for the TV land, and also for if you have read the final recommendations, conclusions report, number one, recommissioning and training of key personnel. This must take place, and I will note that the copy of all training materials, including videotapes, will be provided to the Board of Selectmen. That's what it says in your recommendations.
Absolutely.
Number two, consultancy services agreement for facilities management. Again, this is an update to the first selectman or to my designee once a month. We'll be hearing from Jim.
Right.
And Tony's agreed to
That's our recommendation.
back me up, right? Number three, regular reporting to the Woodbridge Board of Education Facilities Committee. Please note that this includes the continuation of the measurement and verification reporting. Next is enhancements of the HVAC mechanicals and building maintenance systems, Phase 1, and enhancements to HVAC mechanicals and building management systems, Phase 2. And discussion of these two items will be subject to the transfer request that we'll entertain later on in the agenda. And last, review of security systems, which was a part of your charge. I believe you have suggested that that go to the Board of Education for further, I can tell you exactly what it says. Yep, the committee recommends that the Woodbridge Board of Ed continue to monitor the systems authorized during the 24-2017 renovation project to ensure they are functioning in accordance with contractual obligations, and they're integrated comprehensively in current policy and procedures, and performance testing results demonstrate compliance to the Woodbridge Board of Education's requirements. This is a review of security systems. So
We're
I just wanted to
confident
put
based
that
on
out
our-
there to
we're
the
confident
public.
based on our meetings with Bob, and that, they're working, they continue to work on that. And, and so we feel very comfortable with that recommendation.
So if everyone's questions are sort of asked and somewhat answered, the next step is to motion to accept the final report and unfortunately dissolve the committee. So I will make that motion. I know you were supposed to meet for 3 months and you ended up meeting for a year and 3 months, but I thank you for that. So I'll make that motion. Is there a second? Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, discussion. So if we dissolve this committee, who's representing the town going forward here? Right here? Okay.
We are now. We take it over, and I've asked for a monthly update from Jim and Vito, and I'll keep you guys informed about that. So,
Just a point of clarification
Sure.
from my perspective earlier, I thought you mentioned, Jerry, I think you mentioned something about we're waiting for a Van Zelm report, an additional, is there?
No, we pretty much
This
have.
is,
We have
this
it.
is the report,
We have the
correct?
final
There's nothing
report,
else we're waiting for, so at this point in time, we have the information that'll, at some point in time, allow us to determine what action or what course of action is going to be taken.
What I envision is that the work at some point has to be done by someone, whether it's ESG, AKF, or Van Zelm, or USC, somebody has to do the work. So this money has to be appropriated by the town in the event a third party is unwilling to voluntarily step up and do it. If they're voluntarily gonna help us out, then we may not have to spend the money. We should have a better handle tomorrow. I don't wanna be overly optimistic because these things take years when you get into construction contract. I've gotta say, ESG has been very responsive over the last couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, in terms of wanting to come and help. It may fall apart tomorrow in 10 minutes, but they've been responsive so far. If they say that they're not prepared to do anything and the town has to go ahead and do what it wants, then you have to make the decision as to whether you want to take the chance of having another flare-up over there with the consequences that we experienced a few months ago, last summer, or you wanted to, go ahead and spend the money and recoup the money if there is a legal basis to do something, if Van Zelm or tells us that there is a cause of action against ESG, AKF, or anyone else.
But as pertains, I'm sorry.
Question, you said that we have the report from Van Zelm,
Yes.
but do they have to get in there and do the work to determine if there's fault or liability from their perspective from the original construction?
Van Zelm has not given us an opinion as to whether there is any third liability. Am I correct, Jim? And I think they said that they need, I think Terry told me today that you need to do some of the work to figure out whether there was any deficiency in what was already done.
So are we expecting an opinion from them
Well, we-
as to,
Go ahead. Sorry.
as to whether we have, any cause to move forward to push to get some help with this?
So we
Because
believe,
it seems to me, my biggest concern is mold in the school.
Right.
And how long did we deal with Amity, with their mold, where we had to completely close off an entire portion of the school? And how much did that cost us? I mean, that was ridiculous. And my concern is that we get into something like that at Beecher, and Beecher's not big enough
Actually,
that we can wall off an area.
Actually, there really wasn't any mold at Amity when they opened up,
So,
It was the
well,
auditorium.
I'm just saying, I
The
don't,
auditorium.
but the issue is, I'm concerned that once the mold gets in there, it's very difficult to clean up, and it's very expensive. Right?
Just went through a cleanup, and it was expensive, and we don't want to go through another cleanup.
Right, so that's my biggest concern. Now, if we're being told that Van Zelm is gonna give us an opinion, although I don't know why they would necessarily give us an opinion, it's kind of one contractor saying that another contractor did something that they wouldn't have done or something.
Jim, I want to
But-
clarify that, I don't think Van Zelm gave us an opinion. Van Zelm gave us a engineering solution, okay, to solving the problem.
Right, you got that.
Okay,
I
that's what
understand
they
that.
gave us.
But I thought I heard that they were gonna get in there and they were gonna give us some type of an opinion as to whether we had some actionable,
They said that they couldn't do it at this time until they went further. We
Right.
feel there's enough in their reports and there's enough of anecdotal observations that there is culpability on the part of a third party. That's why we're having the meeting tomorrow. We're not having this meeting because we just want to have a meeting.
Right.
We think there is some responsibility there. At this moment, we don't have an expert opinion to say you're gonna prevail, the town will prevail in a lawsuit because X, Y, and Z should have been done and they weren't done.
right, but we're not
That
expecting
doesn't-
that from Van Zell.
Well, it may be Van Zelm or some other contractor.
But the only
We
thing
don't
you
know.
do have, Jerry, is that both John Rice and both SG said that, they tended to agree with the Van Zone.
Yes.
Okay, so they mentioned that. So, I mean, I think, you know what, it would have been great if we could have had the meeting with them yesterday, okay?
Yes.
But it didn't work out that way.
Right.
Unfortunately, we can't have the meeting with them till tomorrow. But both John Rice, in the conversation we had, expressed, that, all of a sudden, first he wrote a lengthy letter saying no, and then on the conference call we had for 2 hours, he agreed with the Van Zone report and wanted to participate in it. And then now ESG is coming forward. So, again, we won't know till tomorrow, but I would think that, look, again, when you, legally, God's on everybody's side. But I think we have, I think we have a good opportunity tomorrow, and we'll know, we're gonna meet with them at 9:30 in the morning. We'll have after we spend about an hour with them, we're gonna know where we are. Very
What's
quickly.
in front of us relates to the acceptance of the report. So getting back, just getting back to that for a moment. Just a couple of questions as it relates to, I know you did say recommissioning and training of key personnel. That, I take it that personnel has been identified and is in place? Like when you say,
The
just in terms of procedures to be implemented? Like it's.
procedure, Vito Asparo is the guy
Okay.
that is the facility
Right.
manager at
So-
Beecher School.
Yeah,
And
so-
he is being mentored by Jim. Right, that is correct.
Okay.
But the training we're talking about is a training that ESG never performed to our contract, which were supposed to be videos of every piece of equipment, how you shut it down in the wintertime, how you turn it on in the springtime. None of that was done. And why that didn't become a major issue a long time ago, obviously, we don't know why, but we know why now, and that's, again, a point of conversation with them tomorrow. They have to fulfill that part of the contract, which they never fulfilled, amongst other things.
The report also included the Dectron unit at the pool. And I know there was, based on what was in here, there was some concern with the,
Well, again.
I'm not
No,
asking
no,
for, I'm
that's
not looking
okay.
for blaming.
Again,
What I'm asking,
I mean, it's fine. I mean, that's part of what we're meeting with them tomorrow about. But the Dextron unit, was a major problem, okay? And unfortunately, they had a bearing issue. And we made the decision to replace the bearings.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm not asking that. I'm asking a much more
What are you
basic
asking?
question. Is what the expenses associated with, is what the report is saying, and the
Yeah.
total expenses here, does that address any of that? Tony has already told me that we've already taken care of that problem, but based on the report, just talking about the report, it seemed to indicate that there was a balancing of the bearings, or there was the pulleys were not even.
That's a
and-
point of conversation with us, with them tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes. And there are issues that, and again, I think that Jerry's right. I think this is probably the conversation he wants to have on that should be in executive session. I don't want to have that conversation. But we will address that
The
with
dollars that
them.
are associated with the report, that the budget item is strictly for the humidity.
It has nothing to do with the Dextron.
Thank you.
That's
That's what I was
exactly right. Thank you.
The second part of that motion is dissolving the committee. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, I've offered to be available whenever they need me, and I really feel I think it's very important that Jim be involved going forward on some contract basis, official contract basis with the Board of Education or with Woodbridge or a combination of both. And I think that what I would like to see is that, I think it's very important that once or twice a year, I think it's when we talk about, we should have a facilities review. Because we have major investment there. And we should have a facilities review, which would probably be in the best interest of the BOE, the superintendent, and the town of Woodbridge. And I think that that would be important. These are things that I think would be important for us to do. And I think the one thing I think we were able to demonstrate, our committee was able to demonstrate, is that we had representations, Sheila and Tony. We had representations from the Board of Education. We had representations from the superintendent's office, and two of us. And I will tell you, our focus was problem solving, not finger pointing. Problem solving, not finger pointing. And that's the way we should approach this going forward. So it's good. We have good resources in the town. We have good resources regionally, and we have to begin to use those resources. So.
Because Andy has been instrumental in getting us to where we are today.
I understand that. That's why I asked the question.
So I think we have to take him up on his offer to help us. Practically speaking, the committee was made up of Andy, Sheila, and Tony anyway at the end, if I'm not mistaken, so.
And Jim.
And Jim.
Then,
Everybody else.
We still had our BOA members attend
Right.
meetings, and we certainly have Bob
Right.
and Al being very active. So we had a very active group.
But realistically, most of those people are still available to help and keep going, because I think
And I will
it's
tell you,
important that you stay on.
they would still all volunteer to help.
Right.
So
Right.
So
everybody is
why do we
available.
why do we dissolve?
Well, usually with an ad hoc, as I understand it, you don't continue. If you want to continue, I mean, look at the fate. I don't think we need to.
Not dissolve the
Just
committee
accept the report and keep the committee alive.
until the issue's resolved.
You can do that.
And again, I think that there's more issues if there's more issues to be resolved, I'm certainly willing to serve and be available. And I've already expressed that to Jerry, and I've already expressed that to Sheila, so there's no problem for me doing that.
Can you make that amendment?
Absolutely. I will make that friendly amendment. So we accept the final report, and you guys remain ready to help us again. You'll stay a committee, but,
We're at your service.
okay,
Bet.
fine. So
How
is
could I
there a
say no,
second
Beth?
to that friendly amendment? Thank you. Any other further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor?
We're just accepting the report,
That's
right?
correct. Just accept the final report. That's all we're doing.
Right.
Okay. Well, it's just the board of selectmen.
No, we don't have to
right?
vote on
You don't
that.
have to do on that. Okay, good. Okay, so that's taken care of. Discussion of next steps. We have the meeting tomorrow, as I understand it. And,
Are we voting to approve the money?
yep, hold
Oh,
on.
okay.
That's why everybody's here. Okay, so the last item on the agenda is just to approve the money, and I will turn that part of the agenda over to Tony. Because I guess you have in your packet two proposals. We'll do the board of selectmen first. Maybe explain it to both of us, and then
So
we'll vote. Yep,
yeah, I can explain.
Thank
to
you.
both. So the funding request that you were sent has, the funding of the first half only, which is 84,570, which is outlined in the memo. And, the second half is in the capital budget, which is, you're going through the budget process currently, which is at the, 54,540. And the funding comes from the surplus funds that we received from the Amity School District from last year's operations.
so I guess to get the discussion going, I'll make a motion that we approve line item transfer number 1819-17 in the amount of 84,570. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and I'll open it up to further discussion. It's coming from Amity surplus, as you said, to CNR,
capital budget,
Board of
yeah.
Ed, HVET project.
Discussion of Board of Finance too?
Yep, why not?
Just, go ahead. Yeah. Now or after the Board of Selectmen vote?
If you want to discuss.
If you want to discuss, you should make a
All right, then I'll make a
Okay.
motion that we approve line item transfer 1819-17 in the amount of $84,570. All those in favor? Okay. I have a question. And this will summarize, I might have.
Wait,
You
did
didn't
you
have-
vote on that motion? Because we
even have
didn't vote on
discussion.
it.
Oh, yeah, we did vote on it. We did vote on it.
We
You
just.
haven't voted on it?
No, we have not,
Oh, all
so you
right.
can't. We just,
Okay.
I got it on the table to have discussion, and then
Okay.
you just, I guess
Well,
now we can all discuss together if you'd like. Boy, Okay. Yeah, we have to vote on it first in order
Go
to
ahead.
send it to you. So is there any further discussion from the Board of Selectmen on this motion before you?
I just want to say, I think that we need to do this. It's a safety issue. To me, it's a no-brainer. I don't want to spend Matt, I agree with you. I don't want to spend the money. We've already spent, whatever, $160,000 on the cleanup. But I think we include this in any potential future damages that we have that we can hopefully recoup at some point, add this to the list and not let it continue to grow. I mean, we have to address this.
I completely agree with you. It has to be done.
I think we're responsible to determine what's best for the students and the faculty, and
Right.
and we should go ahead.
So I agree with all
And
that.
the
Okay.
I agree with Matt, but my question is, did the Board of Finance just approve this?
No.
No.
No, so
Took
you're-
it back.
You're taking that back.
Right.
So we're approving it
Right. We have to
first.
do it first to send it to the Board of Finance
Well,
to,
I understand, that's why I'm
Okay,
kind of
yeah.
asking, because.
Right. Anybody else from the Board of Selectmen? Any other? I don't want to spend the money either. Who wants to spend money? But we
Who wants
have
to
to. I
spend
believe
money?
we have to do this. It's the right thing to
So I
do.
think we have to have, tomorrow's the first step in our
Right.
plan to figure out who, if anybody, is responsible for this.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people involved in
Why-
trying to put the meeting together, and that's why it couldn't be till tomorrow. So we
But
tried
I-
for
I
today,
also
we tried for
emphasize that
yesterday.
AKF has to, I don't know that we should
Yep.
look only to ESG, we keep
Right.
saying ESG, but
Right.
we gotta get AKF.
Right, I agree. So I will call the question to the Board of Selectmen. All in favor? Okay, thank you. All in favor, it's done. Thank you.
So now what am I supposed to do? I did it. I
Now,
did it
you
already,
did
right?
your motion.
Okay.
Now
All right, so
you
I
have
have
to have your discussion with
All
them,
right,
if
so
you
I'll
have any
make my
questions.
question simple, and it's to Andy, Jim, and whoever else. If we don't do this, is it your opinion that the equipment currently installed on the building will not dehumidify that building, and we could be facing humidity problem and mold problem again?
Yes, I believe, depending on the temperatures, what the weather conditions are, there is a possibility that could happen again.
So the system there at presently is not gonna
I don't
dehumidify?
really believe the system there
Will not
present
affect- yeah,
will not effectively do what we want it to
Okay,
do.
that's the answer to my question.
Okay, now,
That's all I wanted to know.
that's it.
Got that, Jer?
So can I call?
I'm gonna vote for it. Okay, my mind has been changed, but I'm gonna be all over this. I mean, I can't fathom that it ends here.
I think we agree now, but can I call the question?
Sure. Okay, all those in favor? Aye? Okay.
Okay,
Can I just clarify one thing? Let's assume, Joe, maybe you can help me on this. Let's assume that ESG, if ESG says, yes, here's a check, or we're gonna do the work, and we're gonna hire Van Zelm to do it, then it's easy. We don't spend the money. What happens if they say no, and April 15th, I think Bob Gilbert and Al and Jim have Van Zelm ready to go? Do we need to do another action to approve going forward, or is this enough?
Well, I don't think so, because we actually didn't approve it subject to.
No, you
We
just
just approved
you
it.
approved the money, but
Right.
based on the discussion, can the board, can
Well,
the finance director, superintendent of the schools, and Beth go ahead?
well, I
and
guess
do
technically,
the
we
work?
haven't approved the hiring of,
A
Van
contractor.
Zelm or any
Correct.
contractor
Right.
to do that
Right.
work, so if that's the question, I think we probably would have to approve.
So we'd have to come back for
we have
another
a
meeting.
selectmen meeting on the 8th.
The 11th.
Right.
11th, yeah.
So we can do it then.
So we have a
Okay.
little time
So
just in
with that,
case. Okay, we'll have more data, for sure.
And we'll be able to tell you what happened at the meeting.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion that the Board of Selectmen adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Finance adjourn.
Thank you
All those in
very much
favor?
again. You're still a committee.